huh?
Cause it's me. I'm here to get you out.
Snake.
They do something to your eyes?
No, it's just bright as all. What took you so long?
We'll talk, but not here.
Hello and welcome back to the Slamfoot. Wait a minute. Never mind, no, that's the wrong one. Welcome back to the 75 Hard Challenge. This is day one of the challenge. My name is Adam Slamfulu, and we have completed day one of the challenge. I don't have any way of proving this though. So, yeah, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. For the time being, I'm gonna have to not have any video. I have no space on my phone for all the things that are on it right now, if you know what I mean. But maybe in the future, I was thinking of like a GoPro or one of those cheap Chinese like knockoffs, and maybe I'll record what I do outside and also inside during the workouts. I also was not suffering too hard for all the meal plan stuff and all the water intake. Actually, the water was like the easiest thing to do. I thought it was gonna be ridiculously like 1 gallon sounds like a massive amount, but honestly, once you just go to the outdoor and then remember to break your outdoor workout into sets. So in my case, it was just doing the same strike over and over again for 45 minutes with both stances. So I mean, it's not like it's a big deal or anything, but anyways, once you do that, like it's pretty easy, because if you break it up, 1 gallon is not that much. You just keep sipping and sipping and you're good. Same thing at the indoor one too. Honestly, I think the hardest thing about this challenge is the remembering of having to stick to the regiment and actually following through with what you're trying to do. I mean, but I'm only on day one, and of course I haven't seen what it's like 7 days in a row, because 7 days in a row on recovery, of course, you're gonna have to have one light day, but either way, you're still working out in those instances. So I haven't seen what it's like to actually have no recovery yet, but we're gonna see that at the end of the week, and I'll probably have to figure out what that's actually like. But today, what I was able to learn, and because I'm not able to prove anything in this moment, and you're gonna have to take my word for it, I would like to, instead of focusing on what I did, I'd like to share what I learned today. From what you saw from the intro, that was not just a joke. It was actually kind of a symbols. What is the word? Symbolic cutscene of to what happened today. There was a lot of ridiculous things that I saw, and it was ultimately a new perspective that I had after that shift. In either case, it's when you change like your viewpoints. That's how you get a new perception. So now having a different goal gave me the perception of a lot of stuff, and a lot of things happened today happen to be stalling. So very similar to what happened in that cutscene, which is I'm just sitting around waiting, but I didn't even know. And there's nothing I could have done before until this one thing comes in and changes my perspective. That was the symbolism explained. So what I meant is, you know, I put up with the things we put up in life are kind of stupid, and there's a lot of things that we kind of just tolerate, and instead of moving past them and seeing that we don't have to tolerate them and that there's ways around them, we decide to instead say, hey, fuck it, I'm just gonna sit through this shitty California, Los Angeles traffic instead of taking a different way or looking at Google Maps and figuring out where we should have gone. Instead of leaving a meeting early to say that you have something else to do, which is usually what's going on as in the engineer life, or you can sit and tolerate the meetings and say and have to hear about what's going to happen in the next meeting, in the meeting that you're in, which is 5 minutes after this one, instead of, you know, saying, hey, I gotta go do something for like 15 minutes, come back and then take a break, you know. But that whole thing of putting your foot down and saying, hey, I need to I need to create my own space and my own boundaries. You know, that's something that I clearly wasn't doing, and something that I'm glad that I was able to see today. Sorry, I'm looking at my cheater phone because I have no way of structuring these videos. These are literally just whatever comes off the top of my head. As far as morning practice went, morning practice was actually pretty enlightening. TLDR, I still fucking suck, but it's okay. That's the whole point of the whole challenge and why we got 75 days of improving in 45 minutes at least times 75, I believe, comes out to 60 hours or so. I mean, I think, right? Whatever. Wait, 50. Might be 50, but whatever. It's somewhere between 60 and 50. So that's how many hours we're getting for free on top of the practices that I'm doing every week. So being garbage is not going to be such a big deal. Cool. So what happened and what did I learn today? Well, the cool thing that happened during that instance during practice today was getting in this new perspective and being outside. You get to see that when you're working towards a goal, you may have that feeling where people are looking at you, but in the real reality of things is it's I think it's what I learned in psychology like 3 or 4 years ago in college, that it's a fallacy that you're not actually being looked at, but being the one doing something different. For example, at the park where I was training, I was on the basketball court because nobody was playing basketball, so I decided to use the court as my location to practice strikes. There were people jogging and people walking around the entire park. So of course you're gonna get some funny looks because there's a 5'7" fake Chinese guy with a 2-pound stick that's like 7 feet long. So I mean that's gonna look funny as fuck in the park. So you're gonna get some fucking looks. But what that taught me was it doesn't really matter, you know, what the looks that you get. You're out to go do your own goddamn thing, and if you let that get to you, you get this illusion of where you're trying to prove to everybody else that you're trying to practice. And the same thing when I went to the gym later, I noticed the exact same feeling. It wasn't an epiphany until then, but that epiphany was, unless you actually settle into the movement and you actually do what you're supposed to be doing, you're just lying to yourself. You're just saying, hey, I'm here to practice, and I'm going through the movements, I'm doing the practices just so I could prove to everybody else that I'm practicing, or just so I'm at the gym to prove everybody else that I'm lifting, or just to prove that I'm doing these, you know, correctly. But that is an escape for your mind, because now your mind is saying, hey, I'm doing something, when you're actually focusing on the thought of, hey, I need to do it correctly. So in other words, perfectionism is okay to the extent where it doesn't have you ignore what you're supposed to be doing. But in that case, that's the illusion that I had to break. And from what I learned today as well, more reasons of why I started off stiff. Let me back up. So when I started Naginata 3 years ago, I was probably more stiff than the shitty joints that they have in, like, you know, like Gundams, right? Like, you know, these are stiff as fuck. You can only move them like one way. But even when you have like a third party, somebody's moving them, right? It's still smoother than what I was moving. Like, it was like, if you were to look at like 120 ping on top of like 15 frames per second, that's what it would look like for me to make animations and stuff. That's how fucking like stiff I was. But that stiffness comes from the illusions that you put in your brain, whatever, like your brain is, or your mind is focusing, whatever you want to look at it as in that way. I noticed that once I stopped thinking about the thought of practicing, that started to fade away. So in other words, that stiffness is intentional by the subconscious, that is you know, whatever you want to like draw that diagram. Somebody can draw some fucking flowchart if they want, but the idea is that the less illusions that you fucking put in your brain, the less you have to think about, the more your unconscious will actually help you instead of fighting against you when you're trying to make the movements. But if you're trying so hard just to make the movements correctly, now you're back into the perfectionism mindset where you're actually fighting yourself. It's like doing a lift where, you know, instead of just doing a curl all up, you have now these antagonistic muscles that are pushing it down at the same time. You want that sometimes when you're coming down so that you can get that nice isometric hold, but when you're coming up, obviously you don't want those muscles pushing down, so it's the same mindset, right? That's what the two main things I learned from the reading. I did read one of those weird books on money, because I am a fucking kid who does not know how to manage his money properly, and I thought it was a good idea to read one of those books better, even though I'm not really too much in debt. I just have a fuck ton of student loan, and I happen to pay off my car. Yay! But either way, there's always better ways to manage money, and I'm a fucking engineer who sees paycheck to paycheck, so it's a good idea to kind of browse out and look how to go into business. Anyways, what MJ Demarco says in the Fastlane book that I read, I'm gonna just fucking put it on the screen sometime when I edit this in like 5 minutes, but what I read about that was the different perspective. Again, nice to see that all these things are lining up in different perspective of how to actually see how you want to manage money and your financial plans. It comes down to what he called a roadmap, I guess, way of looking at your strategy of towards what you want to do with your money. And then he also said you don't want to focus on that strategy. You want to focus on what's driving that strategy. In other words, you, or in the case of his cool little analogy, was a car. So your job is to focus so much to the point where you're creating habits and creating good abilities that are giving you the ability to manage yourself better, so that you don't end up in the stupid situations of crashing and burning on your financial strategies. It's a lot better in the book than from my words, but that was a TLDR from what I got from the 10 or 15 pages that I got in between reading through the builds and also through meeting times. And I found out in the elevator, I think somebody mentioned, it's like one of those fucking NPC conversations. The reason we're drinking 1 gallon of water every day is because you're actually losing the excess water that you're doing in your body cycling when you have a shit ton of water in your body. So if you've seen like boxers and like Olympic lifters or whatever trying to like actually lose water weight, you drink a fuck ton of water and then your body says, hey, I have an excess of water, so I'm gonna start pissing it out. So that's essentially what we're doing with this whole gallon thing. I think that's what I figured out, but I didn't even say, like, ask. It was like these two people talking in the elevator, and one of them asked me like how many of those I drank, and I just said 2, and then they had their own side conversation. It was like watching 2 NPCs like say their own chat, but that's the why. So at least we figured that part out. That's good. Anyways, let's see if I don't think I have anything more, but I do still have to do the unfortunate back knee and chest acne display for my own progress. And if you guys have any suggestions for future videos, if you happen to be following this, please go ahead and leave some feedback so I know what to put, just to make things better for people who do want to follow this. And if not, it's not a big deal. This is all for me to complete the challenge for this whole progress stuff. I thought it was better to make a progress video than a picture, because it's good to see what type of person you were before and after, and then like actually watch yourself through the 75 days. At least that's what I've seen through. If I had the chance to like talk to myself like 15 or 5 years ago, you know, it'd be interesting to see what that looks like compared to what I am now. But anyways, that's all I got for today. This is the point in the video where if you don't want to see chest and back acne, and you know, you've already been staring at face acne for like 10 minutes, but if you don't want to see that, this is the time when I will say thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and leave some feedback, and I will see you guys tomorrow for day 2 of the Hard 75. Thank you so much for watching, guys.